Good morning. My name is Cameron Afzal. I'm the police chief for Dayton Police Department. The purpose of this briefing is to give you a community briefing on the incident that occurred on June 29th, just a couple of days ago. A critical incident in our community. Next slide. Like anything else that we always talk about, that the purpose of this briefing is to provide you with information about a recent critical incident just from 2 days ago. Been prepared to make sure that you have a better understanding of the circumstances which led to the use of force and upon what we know at this time. The images and information you're about to see may be disturbing. Anytime a law enforcement uses use of force to effect an arrest of a suspect or defend against a attack, it can be very graphic and difficult to watch, so to be aware of that. Other thing I think it needs to be said, this is not something that I look forward to as providing a briefing of this nature, because we, as you guys are well aware of that you cover our city, we have a lot of critical incidents that occur not involving police, and this is an extremely traumatic time for the community. I understand that. It's also a traumatic time for the department itself, because some people might think that officers are looking to be involved in these incidents. That furthest thing can be from the truth. The fact of the matter is, over my 33 plus years, 34 years, the individuals that get involved in these scenes, it is a tough thing for them to overcome over long term. There's a lot of trauma involved. Now, we'll tell you that our department and the profession is much better at dealing with these things, because we know what kind of impact it has on the department because of the impact it has in the community. So we are acutely aware of the fact that anything like this, when the shooting occurs, justified or not, is a traumatic thing for the community to undergo, and is just as traumatic for the department to undergo. So I think that needs to be said every single time that we have an incident of this nature. So as some of you guys are already aware, because I know we've talked about that, in the last 2 weeks there have been a lot of pop-up parties in Dayton that involve numerous shootings and loss of life. On June 16th at 1749 Lexington Avenue, a 16-year-old was seen firing into a residence. That was observed by an officer, and that individual was taken into custody. On June 24th at 1530 Home Avenue, there were 7 people shot, 1 deceased, and 1 still in life-threatening condition. The age range for those individuals were between 17 to 22 years of age. We received some information, I'm not going to get into how we received it, that there might be some other party occurring on June 29th. As a result of that, in an effort to mitigate that and to prevent further gun violence and death, the Dayton Police Department officers conducted a proactive patrol to see if those things were occurring, to be able to mitigate that and hopefully disperse that, so no other loss of life or somebody getting injured, and the traumatization that occurs for a community occurs. This is the scene overview from where this particular incident occurred. This is the 500 block of Negley Place, where the red mark in the middle is where actually this incident actually occurred. Next one. So officers assigned to the special details were patrolling the areas where recent complaints have involved vacant properties where parties have occurred. In this particular incident, officers observed several individuals standing in the 500 block of Negley Place. At right around 8 p.m., officers attempted to make contact with a subject who was standing in the roadway. At this time, they wanted to speak to this individual, who then fled on foot and ignored them. While fleeing from officers, what we know right now is the subject turned towards the officer with a gun in his hand. In response to the threat, both officers discharged their firearm at the subject. Officers and an off-duty nurse rendered first aid until the arrival of Dayton Fire Department at about 8:10 p.m. The subject in this case was removed from the scene to a local hospital right around 8:14, where he succumbed to his injuries. Dayton also secured the scene, including the subject's handgun. And as investigation continued, we found out that a stolen vehicle and several other firearms were recovered from the scene on Negley Place. So this is the overall view of 525 Negley Place. That pickup truck was still there when the shooting occurred, including that no trespass sign. Okay. This is taken directly from the body cam footage from the officers as they were approaching the individual after the shooting occurred, and this is a handgun with an extended magazine. This is the picture that we got from Montgomery County Sheriff's Office who were actually doing the investigation. That is a modified handgun, and we found out that it was fully automatic, had 30 live rounds and one in the chamber. My understanding is that a weapon like that is fully automated. It will take 1 second to fully unload that weapon when fired upon. Again, what you're about to hear is radio traffic from officers involved. Some of the audio may contain adult content, so viewer discretion for you and the audience that's seeing this is advised.
534 shots fired. We are on Negley. We're okay. Start us a medic.
You're clear. Where at on Negley? I don't have you on a call.
Dispatch, give them a 99. They're on detective off squad. We are at Negley. Stand by. 521 Negley. We're okay. Start us some crews.
You're clear.
So you see, it was literally 10 seconds. It's just evolved pretty quickly. What now you're going to see is body cam footage from the two officers who were on the scene, Officer 1 and Officer 2. And again, the video discretion is advised. It is very, very quick. And one of the things I would caution everybody is that what you're seeing is body cam footage, which is literally situated in the center mass of the officer at the chest area. It is not what an officer sees with his or her eyes. In this case, his eyes, because there are two male officers who were involved in this thing. So it shows a perspective. Doesn't mean that's what the officer sees. It just shows a perspective of what the body cam is seeing.
Hey man, come in and talk to me real quick. This man right here, come here and talk to me. Don't, dude, you're gonna get shot, dude. You're gonna get shot. Look at it.
So, as usual in the past that we've done, we will not show the actual shooting. We'll stop it right before the shooting because there's enough trauma that occurs in our city. What I don't want to do is to further that trauma by showing actual shooting and somebody succumbing to their to the demise as a result of the shooting. We're going to show it to the point, and keep that in mind. What you saw is when the individual turned is when the first shots were fired. This is the perspective of from Officer 2.
Sure. How we doing? Okay. 534 got one running. Negley.
Again, the same thing from the Officer 2. This is again right before the first shots fired. If you notice in the first video that we showed you, there was something yellow in hand on the officer's left hand. That's a taser. That's usually, and that means our training is that taser goes in your dominant hand. Both of these officers are right-handed, and what you see is that officer transitioning. So intent is, as they going after the individual, is with the taser. Something occurs at that point where they transition the taser from the officer dominant hand to the weak hand, and because context I think is important as to what the intent was. Now we're not going to get into the intent of the officer, because I'm just going to give you the factual information that we know at this point. So this again is just this is a still, correct? This is a still of the individual turning. What we can see from the second officer's perspective, and the officer who was running behind them, changing direction right before the first shot is fired. This is a video of after the shooting. I'm going to show some context because there's a lot of information out there about what might have occurred. Is the perspective as they approached the individual after he was shot, as to where we find the weapon in relationship to the individual involved in this crime. So we have blurred the person that was shot because I don't want to show that part of it, but I think it's important for you to know where the gun was located. Officers involved, 2 officers involved, both have 6 years with the Dayton PD. Officer 1 has 6 commendations, 2 oral reprimands and 1 written reprimand. Officer 2, again, 6 years with the department, 12 commendations, 1 written reprimand. I can tell you because I know that question is going to ask, the oral reprimand for the officer was for activation of body camera, and even the written reprimand was that, I guess, at more than 1 instance. Officer 2, the written reprimand was discharge of a taser in one of our PD, not according to our policies and procedures. When we test them, there's a method to test them, and this officer did not follow that protocol, so they were that's written reprimand for. But I'll say 12 commendations also. The individual involved is underage, a juvenile male, date of birth of 11/9/2007, so 16 years of age. You saw the footage that showed from a distance. Obviously, with martial laws, we can't identify anyone, officers or individual that was shot. So this next thing we're going to show you is about some photographs from social media. These photos may contain violent images and strong language. The purpose is not to vilify anyone, but I know there's a lot of stuff going out there about what might have occurred. But what it shows is that the individual in question, these photos were posted about 3 to 4 hours before this incident occurred, and shows this individual, some other individuals whose faces are blurred, carrying handguns, guns, and the gun from our individual in question looks exactly like the one that we recovered from the person. So obviously with the black shirt, a little bit on the is our in question. Okay. In closing, as with all officer-involved critical incidents, the following types of investigations are currently active. One is a critical investigation by Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. So as a result of police reform, a lot of departments, ours included, decided that for any kind of critical incidents, that instead of the department will not do the actual criminal investigation, it will be done by somebody, a third party, in this case, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. So they will do any kind of criminal investigations. So the mindset, what intent was, what they saw and all that, that's something I can't answer because unlike in the past, we don't do those investigations. The second part of the investigation will be an internal department review, which will be conducted by our professional standards bureau. That started, but it really is not going to really, in essence, start with the statements from the officer until the criminal investigation has concluded, because obviously we can compel our officers to make statements where in the criminal investigations we can't do that because as citizens they have the same rights that everybody else does. I'm sure you'll have questions for me, a whole bunch of questions for me. I'll do the best that I can to answer them. There's certain things I just can't answer because I don't know. Other things are going to be because the last thing I want to do is hamper the criminal investigation to see if there's any criminal culpability for the 2 officers. Once that's done, then we'll kind of look at internally to see if there's if this incident, this shooting was in line with the policies and how we've changed some things. Are they in line with what our policies are? So,
Chief, you mentioned that gun you recovered had been modified to be fully automatic. Did it have a Glock switch on it?
Did not have a Glock switch on it, but it was still fully automatic.
You also talked about that he had a taser in his hand at first. Was that taser ever deployed or any other less legal method?
Officer?
Mm-hmm.
No, the taser was not deployed, from my understanding, right? Taser was not deployed.
Or any other less legal?
No, I think obviously when the based on what we were seeing on the camera, when you transition is based on the firearm that was there. So I don't know if there was any chance for any other less lethal. But taser obviously was in the he took it out, but it looks like it transitioned. And what he saw and all that, that's part of the criminal investigation that they will determine what occurred in that time.
You mentioned some of the problems you guys have been having with what you're calling pop-up parties, Chief. I know we talked to you last week about some of them too, including the ones you bulleted there. What is the Dayton Police Department doing to address the problem of those parties?
So obviously, we're watching very closely as to who these individuals are who are trying to organize these things, trying to bring staffing in. Like this was an example of bringing additional staffing in, paying overtime to make sure that we have coverage. Locations that we know that these things have occurred in the past, try to be there to hopefully, make sure that if it does occur, that it's peaceful. If not, people they will disperse and maybe go somewhere else. A lot of those things we're going to continue. So that's just that was our first time that we had done that, and we'll go back and keep looking at to see what options we have. Obviously, we need a lot of community support to make sure these individuals who are throwing the party, and if your child is going to that to kind of dissuade them from going, because I know recently we've had quite a few issues as a result of those public parties.
Was this 15-year-old at that party?
I couldn't tell you. I think 16, right? 16.
But was he at that party?
What
Was he at this party on that the officers were observing?
What obviously he was there because that's when we encountered him.
How many shots did each officer fire?
I think it's maybe 8 total between the 2 officers.
How many times was the 16-year-old hit?
1 time.
Where?
So what we know right now, based on the autopsy, is that he was hit in his left shoulder. So obviously, when he's turning around, as you can see, that's the point that the bullet will hit him on the top of the left shoulder, is what I understand from the criminal investigations. And then went in, hit there, and went into vital organs. I mean, I'm just based on what I know.
So he was shot in the back.
Shot right there, right here.
And was the 16-year-old wanted for anything? Did he have warrants?
Not that I'm aware of.
Was the 16-year-old turning? Had he retrieved the gun from his waist, or it didn't look like he was holding a gun as he started running?
Well, that's how we were showing you we didn't show the slow motion one. Do we have that?
Yeah, we do.
Let me show the slow motion one, the frame by frame, that you can see the manner that the individual's running. That kind of shows you what the officer might have seen. I mean, there's a little bit of a assumption on our part, but this is frame by frame, and you'll see how the person is running, and what the person is doing, how the arms are flailing or not flailing. So you can already see left hand is moving, right hand is stationary right at the waist.
So he retrieved the gun with his right hand?
Let's watch the video and you can kind of see what occurs. I know the full speed video is 10 seconds, so this is why we kind of frame by frame showing you. Left hand doesn't seem to be anything in there. Taser goes to the left hand now. The officer has transitioned. When the first shot is fired, correct? Okay, right there, that's the instant when the shot is fired. When they're turning, it looks like something is in his right hand. At least that's what the video shows, and we'll see what.
And I'm sorry if I missed this. Why did they approach him originally?
Part of the criminal investigations, and that's something that Montgomery County Sheriff's Office needs to address.
Because it seemed like they kind of singled him out as soon as they got out of the vehicle. They specifically targeted him to talk to before he took off running. So did they already have in their mind that this kid had done something wrong, or what was the reason that they targeted this kid first?
So again, that's part of the criminal investigation as to what drew their attention to this particular individual. What actions were they observing with their eyes that they said, this is the person I want to talk to, because from a demographic perspective, everybody is the same, right? What was the action? What you can see is he's the only individual that kind of walks away and kind of blades away. Everybody else just keeps standing there, and it's like there's no movement whatsoever. But again, that's something that when the criminal investigation and they talk to the officers. That's something that I can't answer right now because I don't know, because we're not responsible for the criminal investigations.
These pop-up parties, Chief, are they, for people who don't know what they are, it sounds like they're basically having a party in front of a vacant house on the property, essentially.
That's my understanding, yes.
And what do you think the city or your department, anyone can do to prevent them from, it seems like these groups just relentlessly keep targeting vacant properties in our area. What do you think?
Well, obviously, cities do a lot of things by taking vacant properties down. Obviously, it's a long process because taking each one of the properties down takes a long time. I know we have a lot of federal funding, so I think cities are already working on that part of it. We are trying to monitor individuals that are kind of try to organize these things and have our officers present and give them information. From a community perspective, obviously, if you have young adults, whether they're under 18 or 18, 19, knowing how these parties have evolved, that's where I think parents or guardians come into play to say, okay, is this really where I want you to be, right? That is not something that I can tell somebody where to be, where not to be. That really is at individual family level of saying, do you really want your loved ones to be at a location where in the past we have seen, and we're just talking about recent past. We're not even talking about if you look, just in 2024, that how things occur, where people kind of gather in a spur of the moment thing or in this organizational manner. So from a community perspective, yeah, I have 2 adult kids, and I keep an eye on them now to make sure that they are behaving within the societal norms. And I think everybody, we all have to play a part in it. This issue of that we have in the city is not going to get resolved by the police department. They're going to get resolved by us as a collective, right? At some point, we have to be okay not accepting the loss of life that we have in the city, right? It's great to have a lot of these events that we have, and people gather and start having press conferences and all that. But this is not the first incident that we had. We had, was it about a month ago, a 14-year-old that shot and killed 2 underage? Let's have an outing there saying this is unacceptable. The first 3 homicides that we had in our city just in 2024 were about young adults, right? 18, 19 years of age, right? Let's have the same thing at that point, right? We're going to go evaluate this incident to see whether we were, from a criminal perspective, was this something that we should have done or not done. Again, that's the criminal investigation part of it. Then we'll look at our policies once that's done to say were they within our policies. But that's one incident, right? We've had, 15, 16 homicides, gun-related. I don't know, untold number of people who have been, there are 15, 17 people shot this past week, right? So I think it will take all of us to say, it's not acceptable anymore. Dayton's not going to have that, right? If you're expecting only police to be able to solve that. I've talked about this with you guys all the time. We are strictly a reactionary force. Even when we're proactive, we are doing that based on something that occurred, and we're going to go try to react to it, so make sure that nobody else gets harmed, because it is traumatic. I understand that if you hear gunfire in your neighborhood and if somebody gets shot, it's traumatic. I know how traumatic it is for us to respond to these things. I can imagine how much traumatic it is if you're on the receiving end of that. I'm not going to solve that. We're going to do our part by holding people accountable who do harm to others, irrespective of where they live, what they look like, what the socioeconomic status is. But from a community perspective, I think we all have to do the part in it. So it's enough of my soapbox.
There was a police radio transmission we heard at 8:26 p.m. where an officer said, quote, "If there's anyone out here that's not dealing with anyone and not talking to any citizens, you can turn off your body cameras." Why would a supervisor say that when we talk about policy of when to turn on and turn off your body cameras?
The policy is that when we're interacting with citizens, taking criminal action for our cameras to be activated. When you're not doing any of that, then the body cameras can be turned off. So 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, when you're just doing traffic posts, right, that we don't need to have the body cameras on at that point, because the batteries will barely survive the 10-hour shift that we have, and when it runs, the more it runs. So if they were to encounter somebody, then by policy they would have to reactivate it. But if you're not doing anything, I'm not going to have the body camera activated the entire time for that time.
How taxing has this been on your department? All the shootings, how taxing has this been on just the men that are on the streets?
Well, the women on the street, you can see our retention is not good, right? So people are going to other places where you don't really see that part of it. So it is taxing. It has been taxing for a lot of years. This is not a new, but I know from a retention perspective, it's definitely been taxing the last 2.5 years because we definitely have seen that. So, when you lose 20 some, we lose about 40 people now per year, but 20, half of them are to other departments. So I think some of that, I know one thing, we got a little closer thanks to the FOP back there with their with the negotiation with the city and the contract, but the work environment is definitely very taxing. But the people who join the Police Department who stay there, they know what they're trying to help. They're not in it for, obviously no cop is there to get rich. Even the better paid departments, you're still not going to be independently wealthy from even those places. So I thank you. I know we'll get you some information later on, but I really appreciate you guys coming in up here and giving us a chance to provide you some information from from what we know currently from factual perspective.